achieveradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/achieveradio.
What a beautiful day to be alive. My debt is paid and more money arrives. The fridge is full and there's plenty of ice for a fireside chat with anyone I like. What a beautiful day, good to be here, when almost everyone has disappeared. When almost everyone is waiting in line, it's good to meet you in this world of mine.
Hey, hey, hey. Ginny, are you there? Bill, am I on?
Yeah, no, we're not. We heard music. We were there.
Yeah. So, do you want to go on Achieve Radio on the website?
No, Carolyn. Carolyn,
yes.
We're here. We're here.
Okay.
Why aren't you talking?
I am talking. I've been talking away. You couldn't hear me, maybe, eh?
We couldn't hear you.
Maybe you didn't bring us in, but we're here. We're here. We're here.
We're here. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Start over. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome. It's Monday evening, and we are live on achieveradio.com with Dr. Carolyn Dean, who you've already heard is present with us, present among us, and we are here to talk about health, vitality, and well-being the Dr. Dean way. And I'll tell you what, the Dr. Dean way makes a huge difference for a lot of people. And it's so wonderful and funny because what happens is when people start considering her point of view, her approach, her standard of the way she feels that the body can actually positively heal itself, and that you are perfect to begin with, and all you need is the basic building blocks to continue to feed your body and nourish your body and allow your body to perform its ideal functions. Then what happens is they start to open up their minds to this idea. All these years of being conditioned by the allopathic medical community and or television commercials has started to make them think, gosh, maybe something can be different for me. And then they start to find agreement within themselves and all the information that they get presented, and they start to make those choices, and they experience extraordinary results. And that's what we're here to talk about tonight. We're here to help you open up your mind to what's possible. You don't have to be conditioned by a disease or a longstanding health concern. You can actually break through that. You can feed your body the nutrients that it needs, and you can get effective and effectual support from Dr. Carolyn Dean. So that's what we're here to talk about. That's what we're here to celebrate for the next 2 hours. And I do believe, Carolyn, that this is going to be our last live show of the year. So I'm going to bring you on. In a minute, we're going to have the children, and then we're going to talk about our last live radio show of the year.
Yay. Thank you, Ginny. Thank you for being there. We were caught in the void for a moment, but all is well. And yes, I know it's going to be very strange the next 3 weeks. People just aren't around, holiday-wise, etc., to be there. But Bill will put on some archive shows, and you can just keep listening. And we do tend to say the same things over and over again, sometimes in different ways, sometimes directly with a caller who just needs to hear something very specific for themselves to be brought into the protocol. And actually, Ginny's blog this week is kind of perfect for wrapping things up in a way before the holidays, because you're all going to burn the candle at both ends, and included in that is your magnesium burn. You are going to need more magnesium over the holidays to deal with the airplane stress, just all the things that are going to be in your environment and in your gaze during the holidays. And what Ginny wrote, it's a short blog. You can find these Monday blogs at drcarolyndeanlive.com. So what we know about magnesium is that magnesium, when you take a strip of it, like you may have done in high school chemistry, and light a match to a strip of magnesium, it flares and flames. It's the stuff that fireworks are made of. And your body burns magnesium, sometimes just as dramatically. So the blog states, have you started supplementing with magnesium and yet haven't quite gotten to the point of consistent relief from symptoms? So that's your gauge right there. What you identify as your magnesium deficiency symptoms, which you can find by reading about the 100 factors that are related to magnesium deficiency. You can look at the 65 medical health conditions that are misdiagnosed. They're magnesium deficiency, but they're diagnosed as diseases. We try not to talk about disease here, but we have to in a sense because there's so much misdiagnosis. But we're not treating those diseases. All we're doing is telling people to take magnesium so that they won't be misdiagnosed. So the blog continues. Gauging your magnesium burn rate is a strategy you can employ to determine how much magnesium you may be burning and whether or not you may actually need more magnesium to manage your daily stressors. Because ultimately that is what's happening within the chemistry of the body. Magnesium is being utilized to manage all types of stress and biological functions. So being aware of your burn rate gives you an idea of how much magnesium you are using. This is much more important than just following the recommended daily allowance. It's called the RDA. And we list some stressors. I got this from Dr. Elson Hass's work. Talks about the physical stresses. So just think, put yourself in this picture. Physical stresses, intense exertion. This is people shoveling snow, manual labor, lack of sleep, parents with young children, travel. Number 2, chemical, drugs, alcohol, caffeine, nicotine. Chlorine should be in here. People who drink chlorinated water, they're using up their magnesium. Environmental pollutants such as cleaning chemicals or pesticides. Pesticides and herbicides, they actually deplete the magnesium in the soil right from the get-go. Number 3, mental. People who have a focus on trying to be perfect, worriers, people who are anxious, people who work long hours. Number 4, emotional stressors, anger, guilt, loneliness, sadness, fear, depression. 5, nutritional stressors, food allergies, vitamin and mineral deficiencies. And number 6, traumatic stressors, injuries or burns, surgeries, illnesses, infections, extreme temperatures. Number 7, psychospiritual. This would be troubled relationships, financial or career pressures, challenges with life goals, spiritual alignment, and happiness. Over the years, there have been these stress indexes that people can fill out, and say a marriage that's 50 points, a divorce that's 75 points, a death in the family that has points, and people sometimes are shocked to realize how much stress is going on in their lives. The blog goes on. Finally, let's add the misdiagnosis by the medical profession of hundreds of magnesium deficiency symptoms. For example, telling an elderly woman that she's suffering a potentially fatal heart condition when it's really a magnesium deficiency is pretty darn stressful. So your magnesium burn rate escalates with every additional stressor. In order to take the right amount of magnesium, you have to get to know your body, and you have to take the right type of magnesium for your body and for your symptoms. Now, when I read this, Ginny will surprise me of what philosophy is going to do. And when I read this, I was thinking of my atrial fibrillation book, Total Body Reset for Atrial Fibrillation. And in that book, I managed to list 33 triggers for atrial fibrillation. But what they turn out to be is mainly and mostly magnesium deficiency symptoms. And they're pretty much along the lines of what Dr. Hass wrote and what I just read out. So I really think it would be useful for people to go to the drcarolyndeanlive.com and under books, download the AFib booklet. It doesn't matter whether or not you have AFib. What you're going to do is read through the list of 33 triggers of magnesium deficiency. And I embellish it. It's not just a list. Under air pollution, which is number one because it's A, I put data mining from patients with implanted defibrillators shows that during time there are more episodes of fibrillation. It's the very fine particles of pollution from cars and power plants that travel deep into the lungs and trigger bronchial irritation, coughing, and AFib. Your doctor should advise you to stay indoors during those times of high air pollution. The good news is that magnesium prevents bronchial spasm and can help clear toxins from the lungs. The ingredients in Realign can assist the liver in detoxifying pollutants, even heavy metals. So I go down the list, giving embellishment. Like I said, there's alcohol, there's too much calcium, having coronary artery itself and what causes it, dehydration, dental infections, filling crowns and cavitations, diabetes, electrolyte imbalance. So all these stressors and triggers, they're not listed here to make you feel less than or like you have so many things going on you could never overcome them. Most, if not all of these things can be overcome with magnesium, and the rest of the complement formulas certainly can help. We've got yeast overgrowth in the list as well because yeast toxins can affect the heart. And to treat yeast overgrowth, we do have a yeast protocol. So I think that's the way I'll handle today's blog, is give you a little bit of homework to go and read that list of 33 possible ways that you could be burning your magnesium. And the question that came in that seems to be the most useful today is a 85-year-old customer who lives in New York, stressful New York. She's a writer, and I think she still does is a practitioner, does health, physical health consultations. And she says, this hits the nail on the head. I'd like to know more about Carolyn's thoughts about how to test the burn rate rather than the list of possible stressors. So there's no test for burn rate. The test is, as we said in the blog, to really know what your magnesium deficiency symptoms look like. Mine are heart palpitations, or if I take too much calcium-rich food, I'll get a heart palpitation or I get a leg cramp. And I know when I need more. And I haven't gotten any of those symptoms for maybe a year now because I keep on my dose. Now, what this woman continues to say, I have no idea whether I'm taking the right amount, though I've taken 1/2 teaspoon morning and night for years. So I decided yesterday to double that, taking 1 teaspoon a.m. and p.m., especially since I hear in your emails how some people take much more. So for a relatively happy, skinny, disease-free, 85-year-old what's the approximate right amount, and how will I know it's right? Now, what she brackets here is doctors threaten me by telling me I'm pre-diabetic, whatever that means. Well, in a sense, everybody's pre-diabetic. We're all waiting for the lab test to show up with something abnormal, because that's what doctors keep looking for. What it means is just that the insulin is getting a little bit too high for too long during the day. This is where the research is turning now in kidney disease, diabetes, and in obesity, to lower our carbs to such an extent that we aren't giving our bodies these huge surges of insulin every meal or every snack we eat. And if we stop this insulin surging and keep our insulin just slowly doing its job by not eating too many carbs, then we take ourselves out of any pre-diabetic state. So I hope that makes sense. What the low carb means is 20 to 50 carbohydrate grams a day. And it sounded really low to me, the 20, when I first looked at it, but they don't mean the fiber. When you look at labels, they will say carbohydrates, and then they'll say fiber and sugars. What you're looking at is the sugars. So you can be eating huge salads and some berries and a couple other things through the day and still not break through 50 grams. So that is pretty much the answer. Getting to know your body, getting to know your magnesium deficiency symptoms under times of stress, increasing your magnesium, maybe doing trials like our friend in New York is doing, and just doubling her amount and see how she feels. When magnesium is activating and influencing 700 to 800 different enzyme processes in the body, we really don't know how good we can feel until we get saturation. And the blood tests, unfortunately in New York, you're not even able to get this blood test. The New York labs have a monopoly and won't allow outside labs to do blood testing. And otherwise, in states where you can do online blood testing, you can get your magnesium RBC levels, no magnesium 12 hours before the test, and get your magnesium levels up to 6 or higher. So that is our blog, and I can stop there, Ginny, and see how we're doing with the chat, etc.
Here I am. Okay, very good. I'm glad. So it kind of sounds to me, because you brought it up a couple times in the last couple shows, that you're really diving into this whole thing about carbs and proteins and ketos and diet. And do you you want to share a little bit more about that?
I could answer your questions. I've just written a booklet on it. Maybe we'll do a webinar in the new year and give out the booklet.
Okay.
Or
well, how does it fit in with the? Is it complementary with the yeast?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I might have to edit the yeast book, Reset the Yeast Connection. But a keto diet, because it does not have grains, it does not have carbs, it is a yeast-free diet, except in order to get the high fat in a keto diet, they do recommend a lot of dairy products. So I went whole hog and got my bottle of heavy cream and started slathering that on my frozen organic raspberries. And within the week, I developed my yeast symptoms. And my yeast symptoms are little tiny staphylococcal boils in my nostrils. Most painful thing in the world. I had yeast when I was younger, birth control pill, eating sweets and whatnot, even though I was also eating healthy. So in the hospital, there's a lot of staphylococcal. I mean, that's one of the methicillin-resistant staphylococcal infections that people get. So staph is huge in hospitals. A lot of hospital personnel have staph and strep. So I had staph, and as soon as my yeast get activated, it kind of lowers my immune system, and the staph on my skin or whatever that just kind of lives there, it just gets activated. So I stopped eating dairy. I don't eat much cheese anyway, but I stopped eating dairy, and my symptoms went away, and I still feel fine. Now, there are non-lactose cheeses or lactose-free cheeses. The specific carbohydrate diet people put out a list, and they're the colitis, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's people who say that it's all about the sugars that you feed your intestines that creates colitis and Crohn's. And when I was writing the IBS for Dummies book, I got in touch with them and I said, do you know your diet is a yeast-free diet? And they really hadn't thought of that. And their list of yeast-free cheeses, there's brick cheese, cheddar, Colby, dry-cured cottage cheese, Gruyere, Gruyere, Havarti, Manchego, Manchego, Provolone, and Swiss. And there is a lactose dairy list. I think you can just Google that, lactose-free cheese or lactose dairy list. So that's interesting to kind of experiment with for the keto people. Next question.
Well, wow, interesting. All right, very good, very good.
Oh, it's fascinating. Well, you know, I'm a historian. I think I'm going to put that on my list, Ginny. I'm a historian because I've been around for 50 years. And what did I notice in my internship when I was also doing my naturopathic training? We were exposed to the natural hygiene people. Now, that's let me look up their specific, something like the International something hygiene, and they were into fasting, and they were the only people that sort of had the goods on how to fast, and it turns out, I mean, they were kind of extreme, and they didn't really have any science or research behind it. They just were experimenting, and the institute that's sort of taken over from them is the Hippocrates Health Institute in Florida. And I'm at the Hippocrates website now, and they say natural hygiene was also the inspiration to Harvey Diamond, blah, 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 who wrote Fit for Life, etc. So they may have some history there. But anyway, it was so hit and miss back in the day. I would read things, and just recently started reading things. There was a Dr. Stanley Bass, B-A-S-S, who was doing experiments, and he talked about one of the fasters who after 21 days of fasting, his teeth started falling out, and he said, "Oh, I'm detoxifying my teeth." I mean, they were just nuts. And I don't know how true the stories are, but the Quackbusters have stories on the natural hygiene movement where people would die because they fasted too long. And then you'd hear the other side of the story. Well, this person with cancer was dying anyway, or was told to stop the fast, and then they died. But it got so extreme. Finally, there was, in my world, in our naturopathic courses, Dr. Jeffrey Bland came on board, and he was researching fasting and detox, and he decided that we might be breaking down our muscle protein. We could be doing all kinds of bad things. And he started a company, or worked with a company, and started producing products. Now, back then we thought, he's sold out to the man. He's selling products, and here I am doing the same thing because I'm trying to prove something and provide something. And he provided a product called Ultra Clear, and it was a protein powder that helped people detoxify, and he felt that was better than fasting. And it's only in the past couple of years that people have come back to the ketogenic diet. I remember in it might have been in the 80s, a new patient came. She was obese, diabetic, and depressed. And she went on a ketogenic diet and ended up in hospital because she got ketoacidosis. So diabetics have to really be supervised when they're doing a keto diet or fasting. So that colored my whole process about the ketogenic diet. I thought, well, gosh, if it's going to cause ketoacidosis. But in the past few years, ketogenic diet has come back in. It's like I say, everything's being recycled. I've seen everything be recycled 2, if not 3 times. And now the research is behind fasting, intermittent fasting, and the ketogenic diet. So we're able to see exactly what's happening in people's bloodstreams and their urine. And as I probably mentioned a couple weeks ago, my new best friend is Dr. Jason Fung, F-U-N-G, Canadian, up in Toronto, nephrologist. After a number of years, realizing his kidney patients were all just dying, he realized the basic underlying problem is kidney patients have diabetes and they're obese. So you gain your weight, you develop an inability for your insulin to work properly, and you develop diabetes. So he decided to figure out how to treat obesity because calorie restriction wasn't working, exercise wasn't working. People just go back to gaining weight. That's why all the surgeries started coming in a couple of years ago, the banding the stomach or gastric bypass, for Pete's sakes. And oftentimes that didn't even work. And so Dr. Fung, he's laid it all out, and you can look up his work. He's very prolific. He does YouTubes and a lot of interviews, Jason, F-U-N-G. And he provides a science showing that we don't break down our muscle protein. Our bodies are quite capable of recycling protein for short-term fasting. And we don't damage our bodies. We're actually resetting the body at a higher level of functioning when we fast. And in terms of the carbs, like I was saying before, when you have below 50 to 20 grams of carbs, what that does is it turns on your fat burning. You start burning fat instead of constantly depending on the carbs in your diet to give you energy. And it can be a very efficient way to run your body. So I'm experimenting with it. so far, I've lost 12 pounds. I became a fruitaholic here in Maui, so I'm pretty much back to my fighting weight now. So it's pretty interesting. Like you always say, Ginny, I'm always experimenting. There's always something new and interesting. And the take that I have on it, what I'm kind of bringing to the table is I can fast. I started out with a 5-day fast, and now I just do 2 days a week, and I don't feel a thing. I feel nothing negative. I don't feel hungry because I take all my formulas, except I don't take my Restructure when I'm fasting. Take all my formulas. I take my psyllium and bentonite to absorb any toxins that I'm releasing from my fat cells that are breaking down or from my yeast that is dying. And I'll do some coffee enemas. So that's what I'm going to write a bit, or what I've written about in my booklet that I'm going to share with people.
Very nice, Carolyn. Yes, you are always experimenting to the good, always doing wonderful things and really evoking a lot of great creation for people and things for people to really consider and learn. And they trust your judgment, so that's fantastic. Thank you. Wonderful. Excellent. All right, let's look at the chitty-chatty line and see what everybody's up to. Here we are at Dr. Carolyn Dean Live again, and let me remind you that if you want to talk to Carolyn tonight, you've got to call us on the phone at 602-666-6027, and then you've got to hit *5 on your keypad, like a couple people have already done, and we'll put you on the line with her. If we don't call on you and you think you've hit *5, then you've got to hit it again and keep hitting it till I call you, okay? Now, let's see. On the chat line, before we do that, let's just say, Carolyn, that Barbara typed in, and she said, I gave my daughter-in-law Remag lotion for an early Christmas present, and she loves it. She says it helped with cramps and aching everywhere. Thank you so much. She just thought that was amazing. And also, Nan says, I, too, am giving Remag lotion for Christmas presents and a birthday present last week. It's a great gift.
Oh, that is awesome. Yeah, it's
so great.
An incredible way to share what you love. Everybody loves a good cream, so this stuff is pretty awesome. That's wonderful.
Very good. Jeannie typed in, this is funny, Jeannie typed in, she said, why do I always feel so bad after taking Remag? About 2 weeks, and then right after that she typed in, where's the yeast protocol listed? And that made me think that, maybe she's got, it's kind of starting to put it together that yeast is a major driving factor in people feeling bad. It's not the magnesium. What would you say, Carolyn?
Yes, absolutely. And this was kind of new to us, Jeannie. It was something that we stumbled across, but with our eyes wide open, because when people start the Remag, they will detox, but then oftentimes 2, 4, 6 weeks out, we'll hear people say, oh, I got a buzzy head, I've got a coated tongue, or my guts are upset, or they know they have yeast and they say, what's going on? It's like, did Remag give me yeast? And that's crazy talk. What is happening is your immune system is getting nicely ramped up, and you're finally able to fight some of this yeast stuff, or detox some of the yeast toxins. And that's just your indication, it's coming to the surface, and we've got a nice yeast protocol that you can follow.
That's excellent. Thank you, Carolyn. All right, let's go to the phones, try to get some calls in, because before we go to our top of the hour break, we're going to go to area code 513, Cincinnati, Ohio. You're on the line with Dr. Dean. If you could give us your name and then state your question or comment.
Hi, Dr. Dean. Hi, Jenny. This is Sue. And
hi, Sue.
Hi, how are you? I'm following up on a call I made last week to you to report just kind of the progress. And So I was on a protocol and full protocol, and I was having issues with sleep because I had too much energy, which was a good thing, but not good when it came to. And last week, as I said, I started to get like some blisters on my toes and my fingers. So I cut back to just a quarter teaspoon of the Remag. And but the blisters they've increased. So it's like even hard for me to walk with my shoes on because the blisters on my toes and the bottom. It's really bad. So I'm inclined to think this is the yeast, just as subsequent to your last comments, that it's the yeast. And do I need to then now kind of go back even more on my dose of the Remag, get off of it for a little bit, use something else to help me with the blisters and the yeast? I'm not sure what to do, but it is painful.
Yes, it sounds so. Well, what you do is treat yeast now. And with the something like that on the toes and feet, if you can get a hold of, there are several things. You can get a hold of Teehebo tea, Teehebo. It's in the yeast book, Sue. What is it? Reset the Yeast Connection. Yeah.
Right.
So look up the herbs there. And you could put clay in, I'm thinking of a foot bath. Put Teehebo tea in a foot bath or clay. Not magnesium directly because it can, it's a bit salty, so it could burn. Antifungal creams, what would be natural? There is what is that? There was something I was looking at. Let me just go to my cupboard. There are antifungal creams, but see, the best thing to do is go on a yeast-free diet and just starve these guys. Take probiotics, just do the whole yeast protocol because it really sounds like an indication. And it's kind of weird because, it's like the yeast detox can do so many different things, and it's frustrating for people because, well, it's frustrating for doctors too because they really don't know how to discern, and especially if a doctor says, well, we don't know what it is, then it's yeast because they can't identify it as anything else. So the cream, there's one I have here. It's probably out of date because I never used it. It's Foot and Toe Care by Colorex, Kolorex. Now, Colorex, it's a herb it's a company with a herb out of New Zealand. And the herb is called, and you don't have to put this down, and I don't even think I have it in Nee's book. I should. The herb is called Horopito. Horopito, and it's an awesome antifungal. It's perfect. It's a really natural cream. I don't know if a website like Swanson's has it. I know Swanson's does have Colorex in capsule form. But some sort of local treatments while you're doing the yeast protocol.
How long do you think it'll take for these to go away?
I really wouldn't know. I mean, I don't know your situation. Are you using laundry products that are irritating you at the same time? Are you on your feet a lot? I mean, there's so many possibilities. Is there something about your feet you don't like? That's like a total,
my
total biology.
Well. It's that's the toe biology. Yeah, no, it's it's my fingers and my toes, and and I don't know. Do I need to cut back then on any of the Remag, or just keep the Remag the same, but stay with the yeast-free diet, or should I cut back a little bit?
You've already cut back, so I'd say
Yeah.
Well, use your own intuition. I think you said you cut back and it didn't make any difference. Right.
It did not.
So then it's the yeast. But then at the same time, too, if there's something really horrible going on that may not even be related to what you're doing, be sure you check with a doctor, because I can't, I obviously can't see what's going on. So we say that all the time to people, that there's no harm in seeing a doctor as long as you sort of don't listen to them too much.
Yeah. Yes, I try and make my visits to the doctor as rare as possible. But I guess to follow up on that, so I have fibromyalgia. Could it then also exacerbate my symptoms, the yeast coming out, the die-off?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, gosh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
When I write about fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue, I say it's 50% yeast overgrowth and 50% magnesium deficiency. So it's definitely a time for you to look at your yeast. And you telling me that, then it makes me think, oh yeah, so maybe there's a lot of yeast there, and it's coming out of your, it's coming to the surface like this. So straight away, get the psyllium and bentonite and start taking that to start absorbing toxins, and that should start helping right away. And the bentonite clay, that's not necessarily the one that you use to soak your feet and your hands in, but you could do, if that's the only clay you have around. But there's hopefully I put in the yeast book, the clay we use is from Enviromedica. They sell big boxes of clay that you can put in your bath, or you can use as a local poultice or a rinse. And that the clay just pulls out the toxins. The toxins are trying to get out, so they're making little holes in your skin to be released.
Okay, interesting. So what about, you've mentioned that sovereign silver in the past. If I put any of that on top, I have some of that right now. So would that be appropriate?
I would say, well, you could. What I would do as an experiment is try it on like one hand and see.
Okay.
Because I don't know if it's yeast toxins that are coming out and kind of burning the skin. I don't think it'd be yeast infection on the skin. So you'd be better doing the sovereign silver internally.
Okay. All right. Which I'll do then. Okay, well, that takes care of my questions for tonight, and we'll see how things go this week. I'm really happy that we have this opportunity. Well, I'm just so happy that I have this opportunity to be able to talk to you and follow up and get this kind of personal attention from you. So thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome, Sue. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and like I was saying, great questions, Sue. I'm sure everybody appreciated them, because it's kind of a new set of questions that I really haven't answered before.
Okay. Well, thanks so much. Merry Christmas to both of you.
Oh, same to you. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Same to you. Okay, thanks again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All righty, excellent. Great phone call, Carolyn. Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on achieveradio.com. If you'd like to talk to Dr. Dean tonight, you've got to give her a call at 602-666-6027. And when you come into the studio, you've got to hit *5 on your keypad to raise your hand and let us know you have a question or comment, and we'll put you on the phone with her. We'd like to give a big shout-out, too, to all of our regular listeners, people we love, like Presley and Nancy and, oh my gosh, Marcia, and so many, Super Dougie, all of our great people who listen week in and week out. And I know their hearts and their spirits are filled with good news and good information from Dr. Dean. And Eliza typed in Carolyn and said, I just love it when Dr. Dean shares her personal experiences. I can't wait to read her new book. And Nancy said the same thing. I love it when she shares her experiences and expertise. It's very encouraging and motivating for the rest of us to move forward. And I think that is also really important, because the other thing is you're not sitting on your laurels, resting back, saying, okay, I've got it, everybody just do my thing. You're pressing forward, and you're just constantly saying, how can I maximize this? And you want to feel better. I mean, there's no end to how good we can feel. So you feel good, you already look great, you have an amazing life, and you're very well rested and very active over there. But gosh, push the envelope and see what really can be done and what else is possible. We've got the drops that encourage us and inspire us and bring us forward in our non-physical to also know and be reminded constantly that we are eternal beings in this physical world, and we have unlimited opportunities for joy and for all kinds of physical and mental, emotional, spiritual blessings. So this is the time to celebrate all that. But yeah, Carolyn, you just don't sit back and, say, okay,
well,
I've got it
what's interesting there, Ginny, it reminds me of how we were so-called trained in medical school. As soon as we hit the floors, and in second year we were doing little rotations where we'd interview patients or whatever. And at the time I was starting to go deaf. So I had to sit close to patients to hear them and take their history. So I was sitting on a patient's bed, kind of leaning over and talking to them and taking notes. And the orthopedic surgeon who had our group of 6 or 8 students came up to me, and it wasn't in front of the patient, but then he dressed me down about sitting on a patient's bed, and that wasn't professional. And we were given to believe that we could not be personal with patients. We would not call them by their first name. We could not touch them except to do a physical exam. We could not share anything personal with them. It just went on and on. And in that same timing, when we were on that rotation, we came to a young man who had ankylosing spondylitis, and that's an inflammatory condition of the spine where it's the spine solidifies and then sort of bends you. You're hunched over in a horrible, painful condition. So this young man in his 20s had ankylosing spondylitis, and in front of the patient, this ridiculous orthopedic surgeon talks about how he's going to be crippled in a few years and in a wheelchair in front of him. So he'd already dressed me down for sitting on a patient's bed. So I said, Dr. Yapsley, I'd like to speak with you at the end of this session about I might have just said some comment about your bedside manner with this patient. And I just let into him in private. I mean, he would do it in public just to humiliate a student, but I did it in private. But somehow it got all over the school that, you don't mess with Dean. But this is what they would do. They would treat patients as objects, and they still do. There's just no humanity in medicine.
Well, there's a lot of humanity here on Achieve Radio, people. That's all I got to say. There's a lot of it right here. All right, let's take some calls from some good humans who would love to hear from you. Dr. Dean, I just took your phone off. Did you hear me? A little click. You're live with Dr. Carolyn Dean this evening. Oh, there you are. Hi,
Sweetheart. I believe you got Lisa, right?
Yes.
Hey, my gosh. Yay. Bob was wondering where you guys were. Look, here you are, right in our ear.
Yeah, it's my wife is in the States picking up a 6-month at least supply of all your supplements.
Wonderful.
I get to have free time in the morning instead of getting her out the door. I get to listen. I'm finally getting to listen in instead of listening to the recording. So it's been a while. I've been wanting to call in and just tell you how much you always make me smile, and how again your products are just so incredible. We can't live without them. And whenever someone goes to the U.S., we make sure that we stock up so that we never run out here. And it was interesting. we've had your products give such a confidence level in our health and our ability to take care of things that it's sometimes funny when things happen and you're like, why are things happening when we do these when we take your protocol so religiously? But what's really funny is a lot of times the things that happen, they're so minor. And all I do, like for instance, if we can't sleep at night, which that was my whole life, was not being able to sleep until I got on your product. And now I sleep like a baby, but there's times where it's like, oh my gosh, I can't sleep. Or my wife will say, oh, I can't sleep. And it's just like, okay, just go take a dose of magnesium. Go take a dose of the supplement. And last night I had that instance, and I literally went and took a dose, of Remag and Remite, and bam, went right to bed. So it's that stuff is just so rewarding. And then your blogs and the recordings that I get to listen to after the fact, I'm so grateful that you put them out, because it's amazing how many aha moments you give me. If you're giving them to me, I'm sure you're giving them to a whole lot of people. You just keep waking me up and helping me realize how simple it is to take care of our health and to just shove everything else aside. Because if your body is nourished with the nutrients that it needs, it usually will take care of itself. So anyway, I needed to share that with you and to hear your voices. And hi, Bob, if you're there.
Yeah, Bob, come on and say hi to Lisa. But Lisa, what I want you to do is just write what you just said out in a few sentences, and we'll use that. That's exactly what we're trying to foster in people, is how to take care of yourself. Ginny says it all the time, how to take care of yourself with the right building blocks so that you don't have to live in fear of something going wrong. And if something happens, like your magnesium deficiency or burnout sign is your insomnia. So you just say, oh, I must not have enough magnesium for whatever reason, and you take it and you're better. It's amazing.
And it's instant. That's why I don't understand anybody who could take your product and then stop taking it, because it's like an instant fix. You don't have to wait, 6 months to give it a test out. But I will. I was wondering if I could get a what would Dean do question for you. I have an infection in a tooth, and of course they want to do a root canal. And of course I've been trying to fight it and trying to heal it on my own, and it's going on probably almost a year now. And I can't seem to get the infection to go away in the tooth. And I just was wondering if you could speak to what maybe you would do in this instance.
Are you doing sesame oil or coconut oil pulling?
Yes, I did that for a long time. I never ever felt anything. I never felt anything like that actually worked.
Do you have any clay? Have you sort of packed wet clay around it to see if you can draw out the toxins?
No, that one I haven't done. Okay.
I mean, that's a bit yuckier, but people will do that. What else?
I did the silver, holding that, and I even did that for like a month, a solid month. Took it, but that didn't make it go away.
Which tooth is affected?
The third. If I had wisdom teeth, it would be the third from the back, but I guess it's the second from the back now.
What about sucking on RNA drops an extra long time?
I when I do the RNA drops, I hold that in my mouth for like 5 minutes. Are you suggesting even longer?
No, that's a long time. That should do it.
Well, I mean, I hold mine for 15 minutes, but there's a point where you have to throw in the towel and let the doctors...
What about the total biology?
Oh, right. Yeah, teeth are... I don't know the total biology of each tooth, but yeah, just try Googling around and see if you can find even the Chinese acupuncture meridians for the teeth, and see if that tooth is on a meridian for some part of the body. There are really awesome dentists who do that sort of thing, but I don't know if you'd find them over there.
Okay. Well, you give me a couple
Lisa,
ideas,
yes,
and then I know. I'm sorry.
Lisa, I was. You haven't been on for 6 months, 8 months, and I said, "Where's Lisa?" And but I hear that you're listening to the archives and doing your homework, so it doesn't matter that you're not on the show.
Yeah, although I like being on the show. There's much more comfort in being on the show, listening to it live, than listening to the recording.
Oh yeah, and we love hearing from you, and we are at the top of the hour, so you have completed the hour with us. Give my love to Christina and to yourself, and I'll see you in Maui one of these days.
Absolutely. Happy holidays to all of you.
Thank you. Bye, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, everybody, we'll be right back. Top of the hour. Give us a minute to wet our whistle, and we'll be back with another great hour of Dr. Dean for you.
Online by visiting drcarolyndean.com.
Psychic radio, holistic radio, spiritual radio. This is achieveradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/achieveradio.
achieveradio.com.
What a beautiful day to be alive. My debt is paid and more money arrives. The fridge is full and there's plenty of ice for a fireside chat with anyone I like. What a beautiful day, good to be here, when almost everyone has disappeared. When almost everyone is waiting in line, it's good to meet you in this world of mine.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Hour 2 live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on achieveradio.com, the last radio show of 2017, Carolyn. We are going to take a little bit of a breather here. And do we want to tell our peeps what we're going to be doing next year?
I forget.
Oh, God.
What are we doing next year? Oh, having guests?
So many... Yes.
Yeah, we're doing so many things. Yeah, okay, you go ahead and tell them.
You're so funny. Okay, so listen, you guys, this is super cool and groovy. You know, Carolyn's always mentioning all these people that she knows and loves and trusts and inspire her, like Dr. Fung. We've talked about Dr. Holt. We've talked about Barb Schlitz, who does our nutritional consulting. We've talked about all kinds of people. And we've decided we're going to start bringing them on the radio show as guests so they can come on and interact with Dr. Dean, and our audience will be able to ask questions and get their take on things. And it's going to be really exciting. And the very first one that we're doing is our very first Monday back. So we're taking off the 18th. Because I'll be traveling. Then we've got the 25th, which is Christmas, and we've got the 1st, which is New Year's. But the 8th of January, when we come back, we're going to have a great guest that is going to be doing the first hour with Dr. Dean. Yeah, it's going to be very good. You want to say anything else?
It'll be interesting to see how we do on this show. I think the best thing would be for Ginny to interview both of us, and we kind of have to be a bit careful because we could just try to bamboozle the person with all our awesome information and products and everything. But there are things we can learn from others, and we'd like to know it. But yeah, we'll want people to sort of chime in. We'll definitely have callers asking guest questions. But, yeah, it's going to be fun. And yes, I was interested in, like, someone like Dr. Fung. He's just a traditional doctor, so I don't think he's aware of magnesium. So I want to educate him. Have you been able to reach his people? Is he going to be available?
They're trying to get a hold. They want you to come on their thing. We haven't been able to get him on ours, but we're working it. I'm working it.
Oh well, I'll go on his thing.
Yes,
that would be a good start. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting, and if it doesn't work out, then we won't do it because Ginny and I certainly have enough to say, but. There's so much information out there now. There's so many people doing so many cool things that I want to find out more about it. This business of biohacking, for example. I'm going to start doing some iPods that we'll make available to you all as well. Try to get out to these younger people because in our world, what are we doing? We have an audience of mostly women. Sorry, Super Ducky, but mostly women, ages 50 to 70. And what's happened in their lives is they've been through maybe taking amphetamine, speed, or whatever, just to because it was what was done to keep young mothers going back in the day, amphetamines, then going through all the antibiotics, women in the feminist movement thinking they had to do a full-time job, be a full-time mother and a full-time partner in the house. So women just burnt themselves out, and now we're dealing with the effects of that, and also the effects of women burnt out being put on medications for years. So we're trying to give the support for the structure and function of the body so that the body can take care of itself. But at the same time, we see the young people being brought up on Ritalin, and most, heaven forbid, most of the homicides and suicides in young people are young people on antidepressants, for Pete's sakes. So they're brought up in Ritalin, they're taking antidepressants, they're anxious, they're in college, and they have high anxiety, so they're on more meds. And then they think, well, I'm spending all my time in my chip body, I better see what my chemical body is doing. So they go out and start doing extreme sports, or they start doing this biohacking stuff, which all that is just taking all kinds of blood tests and all kinds of body measurements and then following some non-professional, non-medical person with information, who has information about whatever drug, smart drug or herb or supplement they're taking with no training at all. So there's so much improper health advice being given out there, and in order for us to get to these younger people earlier, I want to start complaining about this, bitching about this stuff on their iPods, because it's just gotten out of hand. So that's our New Year's resolution. Start bitching more. Right,
Carolyn, you're funny. All right, so that's what we're up to, everybody. So we will expect your full participation, of course. Yeah, it'll be fun. We'll give it a shout, and if it works out great, we'll keep going, and if it doesn't, we'll drop it like a hot potato, just like we do everything else. We're always in a state of experimentation. Okay, Carolyn, let's take some more phone calls, shall we?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's go out to California, area code 213. Oh, God bless you out in California. Area code 213, you're on the line with Dr. Dean. If you could give us your name and then state your question or comment.
Hey, how's it going, guys? My name's Cedric.
Excellent.
In California.
Hi, Cedric. Hi, Cedric. Do you have your smoke mask on?
Do I have my what? Oh, yeah. It's pretty smoggy
out
here. Yeah, and hot. Still hot.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's terrible. Terrible.
Anyway.
So what's up today? Yeah.
So I just had a question. I just discovered you, so I've been experiencing some symptoms this past year. I've gone through the doctor, and they hadn't been able to diagnose me with anything. So I just called in, and maybe you can give me some insights based off magnesium and yeast. Mm-hmm. So for this past year, about a year ago, I started experiencing pins and needles all over my body, just randomly. And then from there, I started having muscle twitching. So my whole body would just start switching randomly throughout the day. And then from there, I started having itching, like deep itching throughout my body. And then from there, I started having deep stinging sensations, like if someone's poking me with a needle. So as you can imagine, I was pretty scared. And I'm 30 years old, so up to that point, I've never been to the doctor. I've never had any issues with any health issues whatsoever. So I go to the doctor. They do a full run test. They check my thyroid. I checked liver twice. Had some MRIs done. They gave me a pretty big scare because they thought I had MS. So I did brain. But
if it's on, I'm sorry. I was just going to express my frustration. That's the first thing they think when they see nerve and muscle twitching and irritation.
Yeah, so that came out negative, which was huge relief because I went through about a depression thinking I had MS once I discovered what it actually was. So from there, I had also an EEG and an EMG. I think it's the muscles.
Yeah.
So everything came out negative. So I'm kind of at a standstill. The doctor told me there's doesn't appear to be anything structurally wrong with me. So whatever it is, I'm just gonna have to live with it. So it's kind of confusing because on paper, I'm a healthy male, but yet the symptoms that I'm experiencing tell me otherwise.
Right.
So I was just gonna say, other than just those symptoms, I'm still I still able to go throughout my life. I don't really suffer from much fatigue, or I still go to the gym and do, what a regular guy would do. It's just that these symptoms that, they basically follow me.
So why did you look at magnesium, Cedric?
Well, since I didn't find any solutions through regular doctor, I just started, scouring the web, looking for, whatever information I could find. So you go through the forums, just random forums. And, I think someone mentioned magnesium, and I just followed the trail. I just kept researching stuff, and then I just I stumbled upon, I think it was your your blog or something, and then I saw that you had
okay, let's speed it up a bit here, Cedric. So, to me, pins and needles, twitching, needle-like sensations, they all do make me think of magnesium deficiency. The itching, that's more the yeast overgrowth. But looking at your history, like when you realize, and if you've listened to the show today, you realize that you have to lose your magnesium before you get magnesium deficiency symptoms. So how do you think you might have lost your magnesium? Athletics, stress, medications? I don't think you have medications, but athletics, sweating it out, or stress? What do you think?
Possibly stress. The year prior to that, I was under a lot of stress running a small business.
Okay.
Maybe that. That's the only thing.
How's your diet?
Maybe diet. Yeah. Because I honestly don't eat very much up to that point. Didn't eat very many vegetables, so
right.
Probably that. I don't know.
Yeah, there's not much magnesium in even a good diet these days. So, what about soda? Diet sodas, any of that, or alcohol, or coffee?
No, I don't do any of that.
Okay, good. Well, basically what you could do there, I have a number of free ebooks. It would be good for you to read some concentrated information about magnesium. The one to start with at drcarolyndeanlive.com under books is Invisible Minerals 1-Remag. And I do talk about my own product there because it's 100% absorbed, so it tends to be very therapeutic for magnesium deficiency. And, partly I like the fact that you've gotten all the tests and then, they just say, well, nothing wrong with you. They should be smart enough and educated enough to say, well, we can't find anything wrong. Maybe you should go to a naturopath or look elsewhere, but they tend to make people feel that they're, either it's all in their head or that it's hopeless. But believe me, you're just beginning to find out what's going on. So basically, get yourself educated so that you know for sure that this is what's happening. And then I give a lot of recommendations to drink good filtered water, put sea salt in it, take my Remag. There are multiple minerals that I have as well, but you can just start with the Remag and then prove to yourself as your symptoms slowly go away. If you've been developing them for a year or so, then they're not going to go away overnight necessarily, but you'll get signs pretty quickly that, I must be on the right track. And it's something, as I describe in my writing, I don't say this is a drug and it's going to suppress your symptoms. This is something that your body is missing, and you want to saturate your body with the magnesium in order to get your cells working properly. Basically, your nerves don't have enough magnesium to fire properly. So they allow too much calcium inside them, and then they start firing randomly until they die. And that's happening with the nerves, and that's happening with the muscle cells as well. So you get this calcium in there. Calcium fires the action of a cell. So it's firing the action over and over and over again, and there's no magnesium to stop it. So you get this muscle twitching. It is common sense physiology. I think in the book I even have a video you can go to at the Nutritional Magnesium Association website and just see what's happening. And this is biochemistry. This is what every doctor should know. But they get too distracted. But anyway, that's what I'd suggest.
Okay, so as far as the itching, would it be more like a yeast infection? So is it like, because the itching...
Go ahead.
The itching is one of the symptoms that I've been unable to, that has followed me almost continuously for the past year. The twitching comes on and off, but itching seems to be more like
okay. Cedric, do you get itching just on your skin, or is it in your ears, or nasal passages, or throat?
It seems to be on my skin, just random places. I get occasional hives with red, like a red little patch. Right.
Yeah, I mean, in my world, that's yeast, and again at that drcarolyndeanlive.com under books, you can pick up my yeast book, and I go over what to do there, and what will happen. Usually, when you start the Remag, then it starts working on the yeast as well. So it's the yeast protocol will help you get the yeast under control. What the itching tends to be is as the yeast are going through their life cycle and they die off, they release toxins that come to the skin to try to to exit the body, and they just end up irritating the skin on the way out.
I see. Okay.
Now, I don't know why you have yeast. I mean, that's usually when you've had antibiotics. Stress can do it. A bad diet with lots of sugar can do it. You'll have to kind of do the questionnaire and get the information from the book and do your own self-diagnosis. Yeah, and experiment. But, call back and keep us posted or call in customer service, and they'll give you more resources or more support. Okay?
Okay, definitely. Thanks for taking my call and my questions. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Cedric. Good questions. Happy holidays. Watch out for the sugar.
I will.
Watch all the sugar. That's right. The final parting words of Dr. Dean. Thank you so much for calling in. Very good. Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on AchieveRadio.com. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in this evening. And happy holidays, of course. And, yes, if you have a question or comment for Dr. Dean, we'd love for you to call 602-666-6027. Share what's on your mind. Ask your questions. Say your words. Always important. They are the essence of creation. And let's see. Barbara wanted to make a comment on the chat line, Carolyn, to your previous comments in the last hour about working with doctors. She said, as a nurse in 1972, I remember those days where the doctors seemed to think they were gods and felt free to say very hurtful things to patients and nurses. I hope karma has finally caught up with them. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Well,
all right,
Bob mentioned Barbara's chat during the break, and I said, well, I blog all the time, not all the time, but I blogged about the doctors committing suicide, being dissatisfied with their work. There's all the problems with Kaiser that we see on the island here, so that the doctors aren't happy. And the studies that medicine does to find out, well, what's wrong? What's going? They never once say it's because the patients aren't being helped, or that the patients are complaining that, you're killing me, or that, the patients just can't abide with a doctor who's just, being a creep. Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah. Let's move on. No more talk about that. All right, very good. So 602-666-6027 is the number. Carolyn, we haven't gotten to your blogs, and we haven't gotten to any of our mailbags and whatever other business we need to do.
Okay, then let's go to my blog. It was titled Sugar-Free Half Century. Now, hopefully people are reading my blogs. They are quite fun, and they are at drcarolyndean.com. If you've joined my newsletter, which you can join at drcarolyndean.com, I think you can. Maybe not. Maybe all the blogs are going through RNA Reset now. But you can get my blogs in your email, or you can periodically go to drcarolyndean.com. So this one, December 7th, was a sugar-free half century. Now, what that is talking about is, let me just read some of the blog, and it'll become clear. What would the world be like if we didn't become so addicted to sugar over the past half century? If allopathic medicine, which claims to be scientifically based, had listened to scientists 50 years ago about the dangers of sugar, we could be living in a totally different world. After all, the FDA's given mandate is to ensure the safety of our nation's food supply. And if sugar is not safe, shouldn't the FDA have warned us about that scientific fact? I've heard people say countless times that when their doctor told them to severely cut back on sugar, bracket, or some other addictive substance, bracket, they finally listened. So having doctors pass on this relevant information about the dangers of sugar could have saved lives. Here's an article exposing how the sugar industry tried to hide the health facts of its product 50 years ago. The article begins, quote, about 50 years ago, the sugar industry stopped funding research that began to show something they wanted to hide, that eating lots of sugar is linked to heart disease. A new study exposes the sugar industry's decades-old effort to stifle that critical research, unquote. This study in JAMA, Journal of the American Medical Association, proves what was becoming apparent 50 years ago, that a high sugar diet increases your risk of heart disease. As soon as that inconvenient fact became known, all funding for that project was pulled and the results were never published. So I go on about how the sugar industry never admitted that sugar causes weight gain. They just say it's lack of exercise. There was... And then there were some studies about the percentages of daily calories for sugar. Different organizations tried to institute a lower sugar content, but the sugar industry kept attacking them, like the World Health Organization. And now we have a U.S. 72% of the population is overweight or obese. 72%. The sugar industry and the soft drink industry, like I said, fought to have the World Health Organization policy removed and the allowable sugar levels raised. And on and on and on. Another article, how the sugar industry shifted blame to fat. So, and I hadn't really realized that, but this is very important because that's when they started putting down butter and using trans fats and blaming fat for heart disease. They turned us into trans fat addicts, and that actually turned out to be even worse for the heart. And then I say, let's imagine what the world would be like if medicine had followed the Hippocratic Oath to first do no harm, and this is another quote from the Hippocratic Oath, use those dietary regimes which will benefit my patients. This is kind of long. I'll try to précis it. We could have been educating the public about the dangers of sugar. There'd be far less obesity and less of gastric bypass surgery, less fatal heart attacks from weight loss drugs. Number 2, less obesity, less metabolic syndrome, less lipid imbalance, and less heart disease. Number 3, blaming fat unleashed an unnecessary witch hunt against saturated fats and opened the commercial market to trans fats. Number 4, magnesium deficiencies associated with heart disease, metabolic syndrome, diabetes, and obesity. Perhaps if medicine was more involved with nutrition, they could have avoided this epidemic. Instead, there is no nutrition subspecialty in medicine. There is a bariatric subspecialty that deals with obesity. So instead of preventing the problem, they allow it to manifest, and then they use drugs and surgery to treat it. And then, I go on about how, look, if we had only just taken care of the nutrition of the public by following the research, we could have been a whole different nation. Instead of 72% obesity, maybe it would be 20% obesity. It would be a whole different world. And I end by saying my instincts and information were perfectly on target almost 50 years ago when I warned people about sugar. Today I continue to fight against sugar excess. With my complement formulas and yeast protocol, you can painlessly limit your sugar intake and maintain your good health. And did I have vindication in there? In the middle, I say, with this recent study, I could say I've been vindicated, but it isn't about me. It's about the millions of people who were allowed to keep eating mountains of sugar in spite of the known dangers. So there you have it, Ginny. Isn't that crazy?
Gosh, that is, oh gosh, one crazy thing after another.
Yeah, no, we're just a mess. We are a mess. And I think my whole focus on the keto diet and the intermittent fasting and the weight loss, that still, it's like an outcropping of the whole sugar and obesity situation that we've gotten ourselves into. We have such an epidemic of obesity that leads to so many other diseases. We really have to do something about it. And I think the keto diet and intermittent fasting can give us some solutions. So that's the blog. And will I continue on with a couple of mailbag things, Ginny?
Yes, please.
Okay, good. And let me just line this up here, keep my notes in order. Okay, so someone writes in another excellent article, Carolyn, about the sugar-free half-century, with another sad commentary about what wimps our government is to cave into funding short-term compared to the long-haul costs for chronic diseases. A vicious cycle. Don't they see it's cutting off their faces by causing more diseases and costs to our very government? What a spiraling sham. So, yeah, she's quite upset by the whole thing. And a question here by a customer, listener, reader. After living in Southern California for 60 years, we moved to the family cabin on a lake up in Montana. We've been living downstairs for almost 3 years. Now, I didn't have to read any further before I thought cabin, rural, downstairs, basement, mold. So she continues.
Not the same exact thing. Wow.
Yes, yeah. I started feeling really bad about 2 years ago, mostly stomach issues, headaches, sore joints, my biggest concerns. Found a naturopath who pinpointed the problem, now in the middle of detoxing and remediation on the cabin. And she spells out mold in capital letters. I couldn't see it, but I had the cabin checked out and the basement was loaded. When I saw that today's show was about gauging the magnesium burn rate, I thought I'd write in. I've been using Remag since its birth. I tested my levels before moving here. I was right where I should be. I'm now loading myself up using probably 2 to 3 teaspoons a day, and your new lotion. I love it. And also trying to sneak in a few magnesium baths. I don't think at this point I can take too much, but would love your input. Love you guys. Love your show. Well, this is where you really have to be on the yeast protocol, yeast detox, because mold and yeast cross-react, and they'll one feeds the other. And I do write about it in the book, so please get the book and look at that as one of your part of your solution. But yeah, that mold, and I've seen it everywhere. I mean, a billionaire that I treated in New York, she had some leaking from the penthouse above her down inside the walls, and I think she said she was smelling some mold, but then they couldn't find it. So mold can be anywhere, folks.
Do you think that in the 19th century, when people lived on the frontiers, had short, brutal lives, they had this mold thing happening and no one knew about it?
It's possible, but I think their cabins and homes were not insulated at all, so there was always like a wind blowing through that would keep things, well, maybe dry, except in the wet, rainy season. It's hard to say. They didn't have so much sugar back then. Sugar was a complete luxury, so they weren't feeding yeast and mold. Yeah. Interesting question, though. Okay, I have this little note titled The State of Medicine. I bought the remake for my dad, who has just spent 5 weeks in and out of the hospital and rehab for what the doctors just diagnosed as third-stage kidney failure. And he had a silent heart attack on top of it. They don't know when. The second time in the hospital, he was drowning in his own fluid, suffocating. He has edema. He has damage in his heart muscle now. It's a small portion, but damaged. He also had COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, from years of smoking, and congestive heart failure. Yesterday, he had an appointment with a cardiologist. I told him that I just put my dad on Remag and sea salt drink. I told him what your thoughts were about all these meds he's now on for his condition and how they can leach magnesium out of the body. He told me, no way does that happen. He said his magnesium levels were fine. I also told him when my dad reaches total saturation of magnesium within his cells that these meds they have him on could possibly turn toxic within his system. He looked at me like I was a lunatic. I just don't get it. The Western medicine way of doing things is something I do not like. I am stuck here because the doctor is telling me that he needs all these meds. And they know these meds have caused his kidney, even though they know these meds have caused his kidney issues, but they have to use them, they say, to keep him alive. What do I do? I know the Remag will help him tremendously. They also told me to keep his salt and fluid intake way down. Doesn't he need the fluids to help filter all those drugs he's on? Doesn't he still need some salt, too? I've changed his diet over to clean and green eating. So the type of salt he was eating, table salt, is totally out of his diet. No processed foods either. They told me no more than a quarter teaspoon of salt a day. I use pink Himalayan for him now. I'm banging my head right now against a wall. These doctors just shut me down and don't want to hear me. This was very scary for me to watch my father almost die right in front of me. The only thing I can do right now is to get him on more of these products you sell and hope he has many more years with us. He's only 73 years young. It saddens me to see him with so many things wrong with him and to watch him suffer. I would love to send I don't know. I would love to send his heart doctor, Death by Modern Medicine. Maybe it would open his eyes a little bit. They just don't get it. Well, I don't know. You got to watch out how much you slog people with my name, because they will come after me. They will come after me if you put me up as a standard against which they will fail. So be a little careful of how you use me in these situations. And I did write back to her and said, your father's too young to be going through all this. He's only a few years older than me. Would he listen to the archives of my radio show? Maybe you could tell him, let him listen to it and educate him so he's on your side and helping himself and making decisions. So yeah, that's another one of the very frustrating emails we get from people who are in the system, and the system is failing them. Jenny, over to you. I have a couple more mailbags, but I'll see if you have anything in chat or the phones. Jenny's multitasking and maybe on mute. Okay. Am I still on, do you think, Bob? Okay, let me continue with the testimonial in question. I'm a retired sports teacher, and I come from the island of Cyprus, close to Israel. 1996, I was on a 5K race, and I got my first atrial fibrillation. After that, I used to get about once a year. So he does that once a year. 2012, moved to the UK. January 2013, after a period of severe stress and anxiety, during the night while asleep, I got my first AFib at rest. Went to the emergency, sent him home with beta blockers. AFib became sustained. After a month, they put me on warfarin, kept me on the beta blocker. Had to wait 4 months for a cardioversion, which was successful. After the cardioversion, I stopped taking anything against the doctor's orders. During that period, I felt terrible, could hardly walk. I started having burning feet, pain in the hamstrings, and also constipation. So that's all magnesium deficiency symptoms. So the meds, when you get AFib, if you're a sports person, you're sweating out your magnesium. The AFib is very possibly magnesium deficient AFib. Put you on the drugs, you get more magnesium deficiency. I had another 2 AFibs, but they went back to normal after 10, 18 hours. So that was 2013. And then December 2015, I found out about the Magnesium Miracle. After I read the book, I ordered Remag and Remite and started taking them. I have never had my magnesium level tested. In January, it's going to be a year since I started Remag, Remite, and my last RBC test was 5. I've been free from AFib for more than a year and a half, thanks to Dr. Dean. I still have the problem with my muscles or nerves. I don't know how long it's going to take me to recover completely. At the moment, I'm on 1.5 teaspoons of Remag and a half teaspoon of Remite. I do walk and swim, and I want to ask if I'm on the right path to recovery. Thank you for your brilliant book. So that, I'm pretty sure I wrote back and I said, well, a teaspoon and a half is just around the RDA, and I personally was taking 3 and 4 teaspoons for my heart palpitations and leg cramps. So I suggested more Remag, and instead of a half teaspoon of Remite, a teaspoon and a half. So that's another magnesium deficiency story. I will stop now and ask if Ginny is back with us.
Yes,
Ginny.
I am here. I'm here. Yay.
So any chats or phones for us?
Yes. Okay. Let me read those for you. Okay, Daphne types in, I am an allopathic, quote-unquote, physician who's been practicing since 1985. I do exclusively emergency medicine because I don't tote the party line regarding chronic illness and cannot deal with the way modern medicine deals with everything. I could go on forever, but I won't. 3 years ago, my husband developed HTN. I refused to allow him to go to a physician and put him on a protocol that I followed from Life Extension. This was before I found your website. But it did have magnesium supplementation as part of the therapy. Within 3 weeks, his blood pressure had normalized.
Yep.
What's HTN?
Hypertension.
Oh, high blood pressure.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Okay, so, she's sharing. Okay, very good. Thank you, Daphne, for writing in. Yes.
I know.
Ken typed
just...
in. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm good.
Ken typed in, I refused the flu shot this year from my family doctor because I've been taking the total body reset since July of this year. So far, so good. Am I right, Dr. Dean? Am I right? Fingers crossed.
Well, you can look at your total body reset as with the same level of placebo effect as the vaccinations, because that's pretty much how flu vaccine works now. This current vaccine, they've somehow the information came out that it's only 4% effective in preventing the flu, and I don't even know how they were able to tell that. So people are really calling out against the flu vaccine because it's got so many toxins in it.
Yes, and one thing that you can do also, too, Carolyn, in addition to the total body reset, which keeps you, healthy year-round, what other little thingy things do you do to prevent or to keep you built up in flu season?
So I have my silver around. If I get scratchy throat, I put a clove of garlic in my mouth and kind of slightly chew on that to saturate my throat with garlic to kill anything. If I travel, I will take a dose of oscillococcinum, OCCILOCOCCINUM. It's a boron homeopathic that actually has I think it's a 65 to 70% efficiency against the flu in any year. So those are the things I do, but they're all listed in my Future Health Now encyclopedia under colds and flus. Everybody should have a copy of that by now.
Yes. Oscillococcinum. Now, see, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, just got to say it. I've never heard this word before. I'm very good at tracking with Carolyn, but I swear she's never thrown this out before as a potential, which just goes to show you she's always got new tricks in her bag. Okay, now I'm looking at it, and it does say, you can get it on Vitacost if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's been in production for 65 years and is sold in over 50 countries, so they must be doing something right.
Oh, yes. They are.
Yeah,
and,
very good.
The FDA started to come after homeopathics a number of years ago. So they're more active in Europe, the homeopaths and the homeopathic companies, but they're definitely still sold in America. And actually, I think the oscillococcinum has some. It's grown on duck egg, but I don't know if duck egg is in the formula, and it's homeopathic anyway, so there's hardly even a molecule of anything in there. It's just an energetic. But a number of years ago, the FDA started pulling all the homeopathics that had any tissue in it, animal tissue in it, anything made with animal tissue. And again, no understanding at all of the homeopathic principle that it has no substance in it. It's beyond Avogadro's number. But they had to ban the word, basically. So big fight in the homeopathic world, trying to keep the the modality viable with all the attacks that are occurring on it. But if you have a homeopathic kit, you can do a lot of good. In the Future Health Now Encyclopedia, I have a whole section on homeopathy, what you could have in a homeopathic kit to give you something to use before you go running off to the emergency to get a drug, because that's all you'll get there.
Yeah, very good. Excellent, Carolyn. Thank you so much. Wonderful, wonderful information. Yes, very good. Okay, and let's see. Let's check with our phone people. 602-666-6027 is the phone number. If you'd like to call in and talk to Dr. Dean tonight, you've got to hit *5 on your keypad. *5 will let me know you've got a question, and I will put you on the line with her. Nobody's raising their hands at this second, Carolyn, so let's press on with our important agenda.
Okay, very good. The next comment, email is, I have a title, a story about doctor stress. I had recently written customer service about the damage losartan did to my body. That's a blood pressure drug. I had to go off any blood pressure meds, and the symptoms went away. And my blood pressures were in 120/70 most of the time. My doctor yelled at me and said I had to get my pressure under control. He wanted her to be 110/60. This caused a storm of anxiety to the point I couldn't even put on the blood pressure monitor myself without a panic. And my blood pressure did go up. I can't believe it. I mean, they just recently said that high blood pressure is 130/80. She was 120/70. I mean, is this guy just trying to be a brown noser, getting it down to 110/60? It's horrible. I refuse any blood pressure meds, but this was right before I started Remag, and I'm finishing my second bottle. And I'll be starting my Remite as well with the third bottle. At this time, I'm taking 600 milligrams of Remag, so that's 2 teaspoons, wondering how much is wasted by the severe stress and how much more I can take. I've still not been able to sleep, and I've been through some extremely stressful situation, somebody in the family dying. I'm suffering from exhaustion. Her husband had a drug side effect, added more stress. So she said, my blood pressure this morning was 149/86, and now I'm freaked out as I have a doctor's appointment Monday, and he will demand, in capitals, that I be on medicine, and I'm really scared. I mean, look at what these doctors put people through. I don't know that this was over the weekend we got this email. I don't know if we got to her in time. I would put off the appointment for Pete's sakes and get myself calmed down. Poor woman. She says, I'm taking cod liver oil, coconut oil, flaxseed, CoQ10, and the methylated bees, taurine, some herb powder, potassium, kelp, and, of course, Remag. I would suggest she can get her methylated bees and taurine from our Realign. The cod liver oil is better to be fermented. That's the blue ice royal, etc. I'm using elliptical bike every morning, working my way up. So, is all this stress causing my blood pressure to go up? Why am I doing all the right things and it's gone back up? Well, no, you're in a constant panic and you're not sleeping and she says, I'm really scared as I don't want to take any drugs as I'm really sensitive to everything. I know this is a lot, but if you could shed some light or point me in Magnesium Miracle where to look, well, basically you're suffering from doctor abuse, and the Remag can be increased to deal with all the stress and I guess to really get a hold on the fact that you're in charge of your own body. Your doctor is not in charge of your body, and you're letting your doctor be in charge of your body. That's just the the most important thing for our people to learn. Do you have any comment on that, Ginny?
Nope, I do not.
Okay, so then, good. We just got one last testimonial. First, I'd like to thank you for all the research you've done and the discoveries you've made. These have led to my healing from AFib and various other disorders related to magnesium, other mineral deficiencies. That's right. You did not have AFib. You just had a magnesium and mineral deficiency. You corrected the deficiencies, and the symptoms that people thought were AFib are gone. We are not treating disease. I would also like to thank you for creating high-quality mineral supplements. They've made a very big difference in my life. As dairy seems to irritate my heart now, I've been looking for a way to get enough calcium in my diet. Now, dairy irritating the heart, for me, that would mean that the calcium in the dairy is bumping off some of the magnesium and causing heart rhythm irritability. And she said, I'm lucky and my teeth get sensitive when I don't get enough, so I know immediately. Yeah, so that's your sign. I've been consuming more bone broth as per your recommendation, but kept ending up with sore teeth. Now, this is important. So I did some looking around. I found that bone broth is not a significant source of calcium. It seems the calcium from bones does not dissolve in boiling water in a significant amount. Now, what you have to do when you make your bone broth is put in several tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. It's the acid in apple cider vinegar that leaches out the calcium, as far as I know. But I haven't done the studies on it. I mean, this if our customer here could start using apple cider vinegar and see if that helps, that would be very good to know. So then she said there are a couple of sites where people are beginning to analyze the bone broth and showing it doesn't have that much calcium. So then she would take the calcium Recalcia. Oh, and that's what she says. She says, currently I'm taking a calcium citrate, and I'll wait for your Recalcia to come in stock in England because she lives in Italy. And then she gives a comment that Morley Robbins says to stay away from citrates, yet Dr. Dean, you say it's no big deal. And, you know, this is the problem I have with Morley's pronouncements. I think I finally found the study where he talks about citrate blocking ceruloplasm that carries copper and carries iron. And the part of that study actually does not say that citrates cause a problem. It says it's proposed that citrate inhibits some activity. I won't give all the chemical names. So it's just proposed, and the author said citrate does not have a direct interaction with the enzyme. So the headline indicates that it may be a problem, but when you read the paper, it does not. It says, on the mechanism of citrate inhibition of ceruloplasm ferrooxidase activity. Well, it doesn't. So you got to listen. I don't know what you got to listen to, but don't listen to someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. And, okay, one little question about vitamin D3. Someone says, I was wondering about taking vitamin D3. Recently heard it depletes magnesium and calcium. It doesn't deplete calcium. Vitamin D hauls in all the calcium it possibly can, and that's what depletes. That's partly what depletes magnesium. What else depletes magnesium about vitamin D is that it's required for all the different processes of turning inactive vitamin D to active vitamin D. She or he says, I have low magnesium, was taking magnesium supplement, and then 1,000 to 2,000 units of D a day, as the doctor suggested. but I started feeling horrible low magnesium depletion again, wondering if D3 is depleting my magnesium level. Yes. Actually, I think I told Melody Rose to just tell this person to Google my name and vitamin D. And actually, I was going to say that earlier. I forgot, but I was going to say to people, if a question comes in your head, even while you're on the show here, just Google my name and the question and see if you get an answer, because that will help support you getting the answers when you need them. So that I'm not telling you not to listen to the show, but on non-show days, Google the question and my name, and most often your answer will come up. Right, Ginny?
That's correct. And here's a question that people ask often, and that is, should they take prescriptive assist when they're on antibiotics? And if they don't take it when they're on them, when do they start? After they finish them? How do they do that?
You can take them when you're on them. Just take them 2 or 3 hours away from the antibiotics. So maybe you'll just take 2 capsules at bedtime. And then for 2 weeks after, you stop the antibiotic.
Very good. Yeah, I take mine all the time. I haven't had to take antibiotics recently. Belinda said that she takes it during the whole time and thought it was very helpful. Greg had to take some. He took his while he was on antibiotics. No problem. Very helpful. So quick recovery time. All right. It's the end. Carolyn, it's the end of our show. It's almost the end of the year, but it's not the end of us. We'll be back, bigger, better, stronger than ever. Yay!
Yay. Absolutely. I'm just so excited about the new year and about this wonderful year. I love doing this radio show. We get the most awesome callers, and you learn new stuff every week. I learn new stuff every week. It's just very helpful.
Ginny does a great job dialoguing with you.
Oh, Ginny's awesome.
Yeah, and we need to get Ginny to get those intros, put an album out. Dr. Dean's greatest intro.
All right.
Thank you, Ginny.
Listen, you guys.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Awesome audience. Love, love, love every single one. Merry, 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 Merry Christmas. And we'll be back January 8th and blow your mind with goodness.
Right.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Bob.
Bye.
Bye.
All they're saying is that you got to get back to the only thing that ever worked anyway. And if you want to call that very simply, no dogma included, relax and allow and let it unfold, because that's what's happening anyway. Be easy about all this. Enjoy. Get happy in the skin you're in.
Okay.
Because if you can't, the only alternative is to transition and lay your body down.
Right.
Very, very wonderful.